This review process can be a great educational opportunity as well. What other efforts would you recommend that judges make to educate judges and to help them grow in their course design ability?
I think one thing is look at the courses that are being run across the country right now. I mean, don't just sit in front of the master's ring all weekend. Go watch what the starters and advanced dogs are running if they're in another ring. Go see what they're doing, go see how they're handling. Seeing what's being presented to those dogs still. As for education, one of the things we talked about this weekend was a mentoring program to help newer judges become more acclimated with the course design. Like when they come right out of the clinic, judges clinic, help them maybe get assigned a mentor and work with designing a whole set of courses. Or not a whole set for a weekend, but maybe a set for a day. So then they can work with the mentor and go through what is it that we look at, and like what the guys and gals have been saying with safety and required equipment, course design guidelines. So get them a jump start on designing courses.
I think one of the things I try to get judges to think about is you're always educating yourself, you're always learning through this process. Be critical of your own courses and find one area in every course you do that you might change. What would you adjust slightly in that course? Instead of just thinking, well, it ran really nicely, be critical about each section and concern yourself with one section at a time, and that will help develop that process.
The other thing would be is sometimes you design a course, but when you actually see it run, there's elements that you don't like about it. So it's important to maybe go take those elements and then try to go back and redesign that part of it to see how it would be better.
Present it find a way to present it that you'd feel better about.
Right.
One thing that I've done before is when I submit courses and I get a comment back and I use that change, tweak that change or whatever it is, and I go run it, I sometimes send a comment back to reviewer and it's like, that really didn't run so well, or this really worked great. Just so I keep in mind, hey, that this change was a great change and it really ran well. Something like that, a little feedback, or some of the just interesting changes or challenges that we've done.
Because this isn't just an educational opportunity for the judges, it's also an educational opportunity for the reviewers. There may be things that we suggest that don't work. We'd like to know that.
Well, I think one thing that's interesting that people may not know is that each course reviewer actually submits courses when they're going to judge an assignment to a different reviewer for review. All right. Would you describe the course design process as creative or mechanical? And a follow-up question to that would be, how much leeway does a judge have in that design process?
I think your courses are always going to be creative. If you're thinking of it as being mechanical, your courses are going to come off as being mechanical, and they're going to run as mechanical. And that's not what we want to see. When you're creative and you have an open mind going into things, your courses are going to be they're going to run a lot better. They're not going to be as mechanical. The dog is not going to be pushed and pulled through the whole course. You won't see the drudgery. You're going to see a lot more places where the dog can open up for speed. Mechanical and technical, you're going to want to see maybe a technical portion of their course, but for the most part, if you're thinking mechanical, I believe that it's really going to show up in your courses, in the way they run.
Mechanical aspect maybe meaning you need to know what obstacles are prevalent in that particular course design, what should be used, what the appropriate level is looking for.
Well, another part of that mechanical may be we catch ourselves repeating the same ideas over and over again. We have to be aware of that we push ourselves a little bit to change even just how we start courses. I catch myself sometimes starting the same thing, starting a course the same way for 3 or 4 courses, and I have to make myself change those ideas just because I'm used to doing it a certain way. I have to think about it, be more creative.
I think the other thing too is that when we start focusing on the mechanical stuff, right, we have a tendency to focus on an individual detail, right, and we kind of lose sight of the entire picture of what's actually going on. And so, you know, when we do have a tendency to focus on a single element, like I want this type of discrimination or this type of problem, we do have a tendency to lose focus of the overall picture. So I think it's important to realize that if we're really trying to design good courses, while we incorporate those elements, the whole idea is to see the overall picture from whatever 1 to 20 or whatever.
If you're not creative in your course design, you could end up with a dog walk tunnel discrimination in every single course for the weekend. That's the last thing exhibitors want to see. You put 1 out, maybe 2, but then change it to something else. Again, there's thousands of different combinations that can be used and should be used to make each course unique and creative and enjoyable.
So how much leeway should a judge have in designing a course?
Well, if I see a judge repeating the same challenges over and over, I try to get them to understand that like Scott was saying, there are more options out there available, and maybe just give up on that type of challenge, and particularly the contact and tunnel in most of the classes, and look for something else. Even dealing with discriminations, how many discriminations can you actually come up with? More than just a tunnel and contact. So just getting them to understand that they're overusing a particular type of challenge or presentation, and change that up a little bit.
I think it does too, is it creates, when we get the rigid design criteria like that where they have to use the same thing each time, then we actually cater to a single handling style. And the whole objective of our philosophy is that we should never handle any one way. We should always be able to handle, multitude of different ways to get the problem solved. It shouldn't
Allowing
have to
for
be
handling
one
options.
Sorry?
Allowing for options.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because we shouldn't have to say, well, this is only handled a specific way.
I think one of the other things we look for too is, within the creative aspect, can this course be judged adequately? You can have a wonderful course, but if the judge can't be in the right places to make the right calls, something has to change in that, and try and change that as little as possible while still leaving the elements of the course that you think the designer is trying to put in.
So I might say that a judge has complete leeway to create and design whatever they want to try. It's up to us as reviewers to say, well, that's not quite appropriate for maybe starters, but why don't you try that in your advanced course? Make sure it's appropriate for the correct level.
And getting back to the creative versus mechanical aspect, my best course designing comes when I start from the creative point. And the point of creation may be some exercise I've said in class, or something that I've seen somewhere, and I will start with that as the seed, and then I'll start to build a course design around that seed, and then I shift into a mechanical mode. How do I make sure that this creative design now fits all of the requirements? And oftentimes it's actually funny, what may have started off as the creative seed may not even survive the final course design, because I'm trying to make sure it all ultimately results in a nice, fun, flowing, challenging experience that still fits the level.